Yo, yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 150 of Mini Truckin Magazine, June 2004. There's a lot to talk about. You got Bobby, and I'm going to mispronounce his last name, so I'm just going to call him Bobby Hill. His name will be in the description, from Acrophobia. This killer S-10 out of Ocala, Florida at the time. This was back-to-back covers, as I hinted on the last issue. If you did stay till the end, they had a total of 4 covers for Acrophobia, so shout out to all of the crew. You get the beautiful Nickie Black, fitting name for a fitting bikini, and Joe Greeves, the triple OG, his third of 5 total covers on Mini Truckin Magazine. We can see, we know where the chute went down. I'll talk a little bit about that. At the top, you have the complete wheel and tire guide. So this is for 2004. You see the wheels, and you see some of the tech tips and massive event action going down. So again, you can see this really awesome dime, super clean show truck. And you can see Acrophobia plastered across the front windshield. If you like what we're doing here, please leave an emoji, thumbs up, and give us a thumbs up on the video. It helps our channel grow. You got MIC, Master Image Customs. Shout out to Rob Maggi. These guys are getting inducted. Rob is for the business Master Image Customs to the Mini Truck Hall of Fame this year. And again, we can see here, as we get a little bit closer in the table of contents, Florida's own Nickie Black shows off, and then you see Bobby's name there. Ocala, Florida, S-10 photo credits go to Joe Greeves. And we do see a rolling shot of it here, which is pretty cool. You can see some of the flavor that we have: Ford Ranger, Toyota, Nissan, and of course an S-10 there with the gauge setup. Here is, there were 2 trucks that looked very similar to this. I got a chance to see, I think it was this one. I get them mixed up. Jason Rice, he has the truck with graphics. It was on a Hammered Weekend Wear shirt. The truck has a long bed. I believe this is the one. Again, there are 2 that look very similar, but I did a video, if you check out our reels from the Spark Show recently. Pretty cool to see that some of these trucks change. That was always one of the things I loved about going through Mini Truckin magazines and photos and going to shows, is you could kind of go, hey, that truck became such and such. Pretty cool. Plan your work your plan. Again, this is all in 4K, so you can always pause and zoom in or bump it up to 4K if you'd like. Not done yet. How ironic is this? June 04, going on 19 years, give or take, and they're talking about hydrogen-powered fuel, and they're talking about how the internal combustion engine is here to stay for a very long time, and we're 19 years later. I think most of us agree on that, although I don't get involved in the debate over electric. What do you guys think? Do you like electric? Do you think it's the future? I'm curious what you think. Here's Paul Bullis, B-U-L-L-I-S, 95 Ford Ranger, also Acrophobia, Dunnell, Florida, super clean truck, and would be pretty cool. This is titled, you see there, the Motivator. You know, your homie, your club mates on the cover, you're featured in it. Definitely a good look for the club. I miss the days when they're kind of, you know, we're a mix of, you know, full-blown show trucks on the cover and a good mix, or, you know, just a regular average truck on the cover, but just a good mix of trucks in the magazine, I think, was always cool. Here's Mike Alexander with Easy Dash upgrades. Man, I miss these days of just kind of ordering some billet overlays and, you know, doing some, you know, just things that were kind of instant gratification, but looked good. And I think I was incorrect. I don't think it was in the table of contents. I don't think it looked like an S-10 gauge cluster, but looks like a Yoda there maybe, right? But definitely, I'm glad to see the magazines coming back. If you're new to the channel, the magazines have been gone just over 9 years, and it's going to make a comeback. Don't call it a comeback. It's been here for years, right? The Carlisle All-Truck Nationals. Shout out to Phil Fowler, everybody up in that region. And the reason why I say shout out to Phil Fowler is check out who shot the coverage. Look at that Ranger, though. The Jody Halls. Again, I get them all mixed up. I could really get my tongue twisted on some Rangers because, as I've said to you guys, I get confused on all of them. Was that Bobby Stewart's? No, maybe not. Maybe his was a primer. Some of you guys will know some of the names. They just pop into my head as I'm looking for, at some of this. Here we can see a super clean Nissan hardbody, ripping severed. That body line, though, pretty cool stuff. And then, remember that truck. Crew cab. This, I say Carlisle, not necessarily, I think it's probably more than Midwest, right? I think. But it is still awesome to see, whether it's Midwest or, you make your way up to the Northeast. So many different great shows over the course of time. Again, if you see something here that I don't mention, if you want to leave a comment, it definitely is much appreciated. Always really liked this dime here with the graphics on the lower portion of the doors and bed. Phantom grille. Always looking good. You can see there is the giveaway Blazer. Second photo down. Trying to streamline these a little bit, but at least still cover all of the content. The other reason why I did this is obviously a lot of people will ask, hey, my dad's truck was featured, such and such. Can you look it up? Well, now everything is here in playlists. Everything is in the description box as well. Here's Chris Felty's 96 Nissan hardbody, Webster, Florida. The Webster, Florida. Great place up that area. And this is, guess what club? Acrophobia. And then they got the subtitle there, Dragon As, the Dream Machine. Super clean. Super clean Dream Machine. You can see there, Acrophobia. Some of the tribal type flames on the tailgate, kind of that era. It is always cool to look back, like even the amps and some of the things. Obviously this is a super clean truck. But it's kind of a time capsule of the genres, the era in this magazine. And that's another reason why I go through these. So again, if you can, the further you watch into these, the better it helps our channel. Here is Scrape Fest 6, a wacky dragon, fun for all. And you can see there's the photo there. Again, there were two trucks very similar, and I hate that I get them mixed up. What was cool is I tied in some of my old photos from Nopi. I believe this was it. Again, kind of hard to tell. But shout out to Jason. I talked to him at the Spark Show. Really cool dude. Repping Extreme Lows. A lot of those guys were in a different club in that era. This Mazda, though, I posted a photo. I was digging through some of my photos one day, and that thing just was, dude, laid out. Anybody know if it's still around? Shout out to Pebble Pushers. Of course, this was their show, I believe. And I think it's sick. If you like what we're doing here, check out OLP via any podcast app. Some of you go, hey, what's a podcast? Download Podbean or Spotify or Pandora and just search OLP. It's free. Not trying to sell you anything. Those fenders, though, Amigo. Topless. Was this the one that became the yellow one? I just thought about that because the way the windshield's cut. That Frank had. But seriously, check out the podcast. 8 years, going on 9 years strong now. An exercise in perfection, double trouble. So you have by Mike Alexander, by Lance Martz. Photography. I could have told you it was Joe Greeves 1 because it's Florida. Now, he wasn't the only one that shot covers here. But, in Florida, I mean. But he might be the only one. This is his secret spot. If you happen to take a look at the background, Joe loved, probably still loves, shout out to Joe. He loved shooting features here, and I'm sure he still does. If you look at some of his other features, not just cover shoots, you will see the same spot. Again, it's a good one for him. I totally dig this layout because you've got the front three-quarter shot, so you see the hood, the front end, the doors, of course, the intro wheels. You also have the title here, Double Trouble. I thought that was cool how they laid that down. And then with some of the cracks in the pavement, almost looks like something they would have done in the art department, but didn't need to. You can see then, again, Bobby. I listened a couple times on Google on how to pronounce the name. How you pronounce? And I still couldn't say it correctly. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to call him Bobby Hill. If he happens to listen to this, much respect, dude. Love this truck. And I got a chance to see it here in Tampa, Florida. I vaguely remember seeing it, and then years later, look at that speaker though. Years later, I remember, I think the truck had sat a while, then he brought it back out again, and it looked just as good. And I want to say I talked to him or overheard him, you know, talking to someone saying, yeah, it sat a little bit. If I'm wrong on that, my apologies. But regardless, this thing is a full-blown show truck. Stand out to me is the paint. You know, if you think about what Cal Concepts and some of those guys did, you know, with some of the checkered deals on some of the iconic mini trucks, certainly they weren't the only ones, but, you know, that is something to me that's very cool, kind of old school on this one. But then you think of the new school at that time, the third door, the full-blown stereo. I mean, nobody had really done at that time, at least in our scene, speakers, maybe even to this day, the biggest speaker in a door ever. I had the same engine right there in my S-10, and I drove that thing body dropped everywhere. Just a super clean truck. Now, this issue happens to be 107 pages. Although they would bump up from time to time, typically they were 99 pages, not counting the back cover, so basically 100 pages. This one's 108. That's one of the things, obviously, Wheel and Tire Guide, you're going to see a lot of cool ads in this issue. But if you think about where, I mean, to me, this really should have been like a center pull-out too. But technically, it wasn't. I mean, you could obviously make it happen. But that was one thing that I noticed here with where the staples are actually at. We're mini truckers. We could have made it happen. Here's Tuck It, Mike Alexander, obviously kind of getting his footing at the magazine. So he's putting out content, putting in the work. 2004 Wheel Tire Guide. So this obviously served a couple of purposes. One, it was a great spin to be able to go, hey, you know, many of you mini truckers and enthusiasts these wheels are so timeless. I think those were on the Accord that had the Tiki stuff. I want to say it was those. Love those wheels. But they could, you know, spin it as in, hey, we know you're probably looking for wheels and tires. If not, you're going to see something in here that you're going to want. Including right there, shout out to Colorado Custom. The best in the business, in my opinion. I've had Michael and team on. Shout out to Bill and some of the old employees, the people that started that company. But, you know, you would be able to market it that way, that, hey, you're probably going to sell some wheels. But, oh, by the way, then we could sell some wheel ads, which you're going to see right now. Sports, you got the intro ad on the right. Sport Truck Specialties, J. La Rosa's S-10. Such an iconic truck. Fire. He's on that short list. I got to get him on. I know. And then there is the Tacoma. But so you had the wheel ad there. You got some more wheels. And then you got Time Machine. Let's not forget. This truck did it all. From multiple covers to a wheel ad to best of show. Truly amazing. And of course became friends with Charles Armstrong. He came on the podcast. And 20 years to the year, we ran this. We still have a few left on our website, ourlifestylepodcast.com. We ran it as the first time it was ever featured per Charles on a shirt, which was super cool. Of course, Mini Nats that year was in July. Of course, Mini Nats now is in April. And 20 years to the year. It was pretty cool. A lot of the Subculture fan came by. Charles, a lot of people showed the love, and we appreciate that. Here is the Boyd Coddington Wheels, is what they were called at the time. And there you see the Meridians. Super clean truck. That truck is still on the scene. Was featured in a magazine years ago, if not more than once. And again, just trying to keep these entertaining. Appreciate all the love here that we get from you guys watching these. We can see here Colorado Custom Wheels, my favorite wheels. I partnered with them for many years. They're great people. Best customer service in the business. Look at some of those names, man. They kind of branched off from the Colorado names like Boulder and so on. I have the South Beach on my S10. But look, Alcatraz, Attica, Leavenworth. Dude, Rikers, San Quentin, excuse me, Folsom. They will make any of their old wheels as well. If you got an old catalog or you Google and find something, hit them up. All right, here's a hidden gem. A Dragon Isuzu Anthony's. We just had Anthony on the podcast. Shout out to Anthony. This was at Blood Drag 04, I believe. I don't think it was 03. It would have happened less than 6 months prior to this in February. I met Mike Alexander, I think the first time there. Or maybe it was Showfest, but I remember bumping into Mike right around where this photo was taken. Of course, Anthony talked about bringing it to Blood Drag that year. We could see they're heavily modified. And I have a photo which was like overexposed. I had it on film. You can't really see it here, but he actually took an extra grill and they mounted it inside, and they kind of had people thrown off like he was going to run a grill for his dash. But you can see here, and you say, well, yo, ODB, check that out. That's not an Isuzu grill. Well, yeah, that photo wasn't taken then. Now, granted, in hindsight, maybe because of the work that had been done, maybe it was 03, February 03. So you guys would have to chime in if you happen to know, or if Anthony watches this. But certainly was very cool to see the truck there, and for this thing to go on. Now, maybe this wasn't taken there. Maybe that's where my mind's getting mixed up. Maybe it was there, and this was closer, probably what it is, to completion. That's probably what it is. My mind gets going crazy. You can see the KMC wheels, 9 deuce, and he was out in Texas by then. You can see there. But again, we had Anthony on, great dude, and it was really cool. It was an honor to get him on the podcast and off the list, if you will, because he's been on there a while. Here's a Budnick wheel ad. Here you have, here's a cool name, Rob Ross. Not Bob Ross, not Rick Ross, Rob Ross. Super awesome truck. You can see Ohio barely on the plate. This is when they would superimpose stuff and cover it, or just do it just to do it. But definitely, I always like these features. Lance shot it, and it's kind of that angle where it's almost like an illusion. It looks like it's even maybe lower than it really is. Super low truck, but I just love how they would shoot that, and it's almost like an infinity pool. It's like, boom. It's just sick. I think you guys get the point. Super sick. And then you can see the Ohio plate there. Really clean truck. And you guys have heard me talk about possibly on the podcast, these were the setups that we had in these days. Look at how big the valve setups were. Maybe had 1, maybe 2 tanks. A typical bridge setup of that era. Super clean truck. But when you think about how far things have come, a lot of guys had these bigger switch boxes. Some guys still like those, especially the hydro guys. It's so awesome to look in there and see, one of those Street Charger, if you will. And shout out to Bill. I hope that his health is getting better from Street Charger. But, those lowrider guys, they typically like to have their switch boxes. Mini truckers did as well with our air. And oh, by the way, we've seen how far it's come. Doing this stuff on your phone. This was kind of a cool concept. You can see here, Hunters, Tim Davis, shout out to TD. He worked there when we had Tim on. He talked about his time there at Hunters. This was the thing. I used to get these catalogs. This time, I think you had to purchase them. But a lot of times you could get those free if you sent something in or a request on the website back in the day. This was Vanessa. She was on a cover. You guys remember which one? I think a couple of magazines as well. And you can see here the order form. So kind of a cool thing. A couple of them were free. The big, huge companies like Amsoil and whatnot, LMC, some of those, is like a little write-off for them. But other companies, they were like, hey, if you're going to buy something, you want our nice, awesome catalog, send us $5. Here you got the Dakota Digital. For years, I would say Digital Dakota is the way my brain works sometimes. And Pringle at Ken Diggett, he would always remind me of that. Shout out to Pringle. He's been on the podcast. He's been on TV, Severed Brother, and he would correct me. He would say, you did it again. You said Dakota Digital. Digital Dakota. So I finally got it right. Whatever way it is. And then check out Graffiti. 2F and low. NC member here. appreciate if you guys watch to the end. Leave an emoji, leave a thumbs up, the comment, and the actual thumbs up. If you find that anybody else might find value in this content, whether it's the owner of one of these trucks or the model, I've had a couple models reach out to say, hey, I Googled my name, I found this, thank you. How do I get the magazine? You know, I link them up and make sure they get one. A lot of people, the Mike Alexanders, of course, Lance getting in the Mini Truck Hall of Fame this year as well, much deserved. Joe Greeves, so many different names that you saw. Acrophobia, we all play a part in this scene of ours. Stay on the rise, my friends. And Nickie Black, though. Bobby, this is one hell of a dime. Love this truck. Hope it's still around. It's one of my favorites. One of my Florida brothers. Stay on the rise. Biachia. Peace.